Hey guys, Liana here, playing Arkham City because I wanted to talk about the Batgirl cover that has been voluntarily pulled by DC Comics. Voluntarily pulled, that sounds dirty. But I admit that there's also an ulterior motive to my selecting this game. I actually wanted to check to see whether Anita Sarkeesian's comments about Catwoman's fetching backside were, because it is a very fetching backside. I mean, check that out. That is a nice ass. And it moves very nicely. But is it inhuman? No, I mean, okay, her waist is, no? Her waist is properly proportioned. Some people draw it so the waist is like way in, like cut unnaturally, but I mean, she's clearly very attractive, but she's got a draw line around her and shadows that look like they're drawn on. It's, and the vaguest hint of nipple, that's a bit much. The nipple's a bit much. You'd wear a bra if you're climbing on buildings. And I'm not saying that I'm offended by that. I'm just saying that no, women know stuff, and we know that when you're out scaling buildings, you wear a bra just for comfort's sake. But other than that, I mean, it's not out of the realm of plausible, and she doesn't walk that. That's a normal walk. What's horrible about, I mean, I remembered it as way worse. I remember her having her hips, like I remembered her standing pose as more of her walking. But I mean, look, they're animating her like a cat, which is ridiculous, but the character's ridiculous, okay? No one claims that Batman characters aren't, okay, some people get way into Batman, and those people scare me. But, you know, sane people recognize Batman is silly, and that's why we like it. So, ulterior motive completed. Now, I'm going to talk about the cancel the cover. And what I'm going to try to do is lay out sort of the facts as I know them first, withhold opinion until the end, so we can make this fact-based and kind of take the approach of what do we know as opposed to what do we feel. So, what do we know? We know that comic books have a tradition going back to the Silver Age of imperiling heroes on comic book covers to draw interest in the comic, back from the days that they used to be on newsstands and they sold a lot more copies than they do now. So, we know that. We also know that the Joker and Batgirl have a history. There was a very once famous story called The Killing Joke. It's one of the big deal stories in comic books.
Two-Face said
because crosstalk. Shut up, dudes.
How does he know?
How am I supposed to know? I don't question.
But the Killing Joke was a big deal.
I know.
At the time it happened, it was the story written by Alan Moore.
Oh,
I forget who the artist
Maybe it's
is.
because Catwoman left
Shame
him
on
hanging
me.
over that acid tank.
Really?
But
Yeah. He had it
you
just
know,
where he
it
wanted
was-
and that bitch broke free.
it was a
Seriously?
big deal at the time. It was very controversial, but comic book controversies were very different back then, and they were handled extremely differently. The internet wasn't what it is today. No, you stay away from that gun, Mr. Bad Guy. So, yeah, it was, handled in a very different way. It was contentious at the time, but we have to remember that Batman stories, they've killed characters. I mean, they've killed Robin, and when it was Jason Todd, Kitty! Hi, Kitty. Kitties are cute. Oh, this supposed to be Catwoman's
good
place.
to be
Hey,
home.
there's a kitty. There's kitties in the window. It's like my house. Hi, kitties. Okay, I just got completely distracted. Ooh, loot. You notice they don't say how
Okay,
you
Selena,
access your
time to
loot.
find Ivy. Let's hope she's forgiven me. Of course she has.
Oh, D-pad.
She wouldn't hold a
Okay.
grudge.
Gotcha. Loots. So we have these two things that are just background to the whole. Well, I guess three things when you factor in, you know, the fact that Jason Todd has been killed. Stephanie Brown was presumed dead. They were brutal stories about Stephanie Brown, aka spoiler, aka Robin at one point. Robins do not do well in Batman stories. But, you know, so we had this backdrop of this cover that was, you know, chilling. And it's, if you haven't seen it, it's basically Batgirl being held hostage by the Joker, and she looks terrified, and he's got his arm around her with a gun, you know, draped from his hand, and, you know, she's all bug-eyed and crying a la, you know, those old, what are they, Liechtenstein drawings? I almost said Liefeld. That's a very different thing. Oh, goodness. But, so that's pretty much what we've got, and of course, responses ranged from, it's a sexual assault metaphor, how dare you, to it's no big deal, how dare you, and everybody started fighting, and, you know, it's not just video games anymore. Death threats flew over a cover. We're talking about a drawing, and people flipped out. And that's because people think that being exposed to this sort of stuff causes harm or is insulting or that kind of stuff. I mean, I guess people can be individually insulted, but, and the cover's been fooled. I mean, DC made that choice. We're not here to make that choice, and I don't think it's my place to determine whether they should or should not have made that choice. It's not up to me. I'm not the one that has to live with it. I wasn't the one managing the situation. I don't know all the details there, and I shouldn't know all the details there.
Like, it hasn't really changed much.
But the accusation was made that they would never do that to a male hero. Notably, they'd never do it to Batman. Well, you have to sort of break down what element of the cover they're talking about when it comes to they'd never do it to Batman, right? I mean, have Batman in peril? Have Batman threatened by a villain? They'd absolutely do that. It's been done a bazillion flippin' times, right? That's just not true. Now, the thing that is different is the tears. Oh God, they cut off Batman's penis before they'd have him cry. Maybe they'd allowed him to cry if he had his penis cut off. But probably not even then. He's supposed to be hard-ass rich white man ninja, right? And that's... DC does have a bit of an issue with
I'll find you someday and kick the living crap.
not taking emotional and artistic risks with, whoops. It's been a while since I played this game. You know, being unwilling to take some creative risks with Batman at any of the big three of their Trinity characters. Whoops. Like I said, I'm rusty on this game. But, and that does mean that they take their risks with the secondary characters in those continuities. So Batgirl, Robin, etc. And on the one hand, they make the secondary characters more interesting. But on the other hand, yes, the secondary characters do get put into a lot more peril of interesting and lasting ways than old Batsy does.
Hide like a little bitch.
That's, you know, yes,
Too scared to take
they
on
are,
me? That's surprise.
and that, you know, that's true. I mean, look at how long it took them to give Wonder Woman a freaking boyfriend, and that didn't last that long. And then they made it Superman, which, to me, and this is the sort of thing where I'm fully prepared to admit that this is just my own personal take on these characters. I find it gross to have Batman, Superman and Wonder Woman dating. It's a little too brother and sister for my liking. It's, well, you're a superpowered man and I'm a superpowered woman and we both wear the same colors. Let's fuck. That's, oh, it's so lazy. But that's a different issue. The issue here, and now hopefully I've given you guys enough information. I'll give you guys my opinion. I don't see the point of getting shocked and offended by covers intended to shock. I don't think they were really intended to offend. But DC, you know, DC, whoa, get up. DC obviously is lacking a bit of awareness of, hello, of the influx into comics of new readers and what that means. They clearly did not anticipate the lack of knowledge of lore. Oh, come on! Put your guns away. Okay, where's that other guy? So, I think it was a tactical mistake on DC's part. Obviously, I mean, okay, they got a bunch of publicity out of it, but I get the sense they're a little bit overwhelmed right now. I mean, creators are getting beat up so badly on these issues that I think they'd agree they miscalculated. And just go for it.
This way! She went this way!
Ah, okay. Load screen will give me a chance to talk.
You shouldn't have come here, Selena.
All right, I forgot they do those things. That's cool, how they sort of reward deaths. So, is the cover offensive? And is it a double standard? Are they unduly committing violence against women? I would only say it's different on one point, and that's the point I've acknowledged, which is the tears. No, they would not do that with Batman. Now, I don't, my reaction on that is a bit different. I think that maybe they should. Like, maybe it's time to allow our superheroes to have more emotional engagement. But I don't think they're ready to do that with Batman yet, personally. I think we're not there. But that being said, you know, that is the one thing that I can see is different. Everything else has been done with Robin and Batman before. More Robin.
Batman cried when Jason Todd was killed.
Oh, Batman cried when Jason Todd was killed? My husband.
Other times too, but that's the time I remember.
He's never cried when he's been, like, scared.
Only when he's dosed with fear gas from the Scarecrow.
Okay, so, it's okay, says my husband, who's been reading comics longer than me because he's older than me. It's okay if, the cover's okay if we assume that she was dosed with Scarecrow's fear toxin. That is the official nerd verdict, but let's face it, she wasn't.
I never said that. I was just giving examples.
I'm saying, stop ruining my talking.
Sorry, Mike.
So, he claims he never said that. He pointed out that, see, he came in without preceding information and didn't realize what he was adding to. There we go, see? So, you know, is it a double standard? Slightly. Is it an offensive double standard? Well, if you accept that, if you assume that they're implying that Batgirl is more scared than a male hero in that situation,
Ivy, you
I guess I can see why you think that. Oh, now they're talking. That is, in fairness, an assumption.
come
Now,
on.
it's...
You're not seriously going
I can
to
see
hold
why
that
people would
against me.
make that assumption, but do you see how subjective this gets very
They were
quickly?
just flowers, Ivy.
And I hope this isn't affected my crosstalk. Flowers. And so,
Come on, Red. Can't we just...
I mean, there are two issues here, right?
Oh, for the love of...
There's the business issue. From that perspective, they clearly misread their audience and they clearly went overboard. The new readers to comics were not provided sufficient information to contextualize the history between Joker and Batgirl.
Kill her for me, boys.
So that's a marketing, that's a continuity issue.
You can't outrun me,
But I
Selena.
feel
My spores
bad
will fill your
for
lungs and kill you.
the artist who's had a lot of assumptions about him made and about his motivations, assumptions about his motivations made. And I just wish that we could use these moments to talk and educate each other, like my husband and I did. I'm like, I can't remember Batman ever crying, and he's like, okay, he gave me information I didn't recall. So, I mean, that's a dialogue, right? And that's the real thing here, that, I mean, I get why they didn't want to have that cover sitting on comic book shelves, because then that gives the retailers problems, because people come into the comic book stores and it makes the retailers a target. It does. But this is really much more a failure of discourse than, it's not a free speech issue because they weren't forced to retract the cover. They did so willingly. It's not a, it's not...
A billion microorganisms will
You can't really say DC Comics was doing anything that TV shows don't do, TV procedurals don't do all the time. I'm a big fan of Criminal Minds, but I admit that the way they dwell on the weeping, terrified woman at the beginning of those shows when they do that, I'm not saying I'm offended, it just makes me really uncomfortable. It makes me look away. I think they overdo it sometimes. Not because it's offensive, because it stops being enjoyable. And shows are, at the end of the day, entertainment.
If you're still breathing.
Crosstalk.
She's consistent.
And these things just
I'll give
make
her
me
that.
wish that we could use these moments to educate people
Perfecting
on the signals those send to women,
your pathetic
as opposed to freaking out and creating villains in the whole thing. I that always bothers me. It's like I actually feel like I'm getting too old for all this stuff. That I don't understand the level of anger anymore. And there's a little bitty thing in the back of my mind that is sort of like, oh yeah, I remember when, did I ever get that pissed off about things? I don't know. And I mean, yes, we need to make sure that Batgirl stays just as heroic and just as brave and just as badass as, and I mean, there's a whole other group of people who object to the cover just because they don't feel like it properly markets the book. And I can agree with that. The book is light. The book is,
Look, man, I just need your
whimsical.
help.
So yes, in that case, that's not a you're being mean to women thing. That is a legitimate
You've got so
outside
many
packaging doesn't reflect the inside product. And those people, I'm like, all right, I can see your point, and in that case, you know, I understand why those people are bothered. They feel like it's cheesy. And I'm in agreement there. I think that it was a bad move because of what happened, but people can't predict. Let me see the Long Halloween Catwoman. Haven't tried that one. But that's the crowd I tend to listen to most when they're actually looking at the work and judging it on itself. A medium close read instead of a completely close read.
You know it, I know it.
You should
She changed clothes.
You
See,
said you would water them.
it's just silly.
Now there's only one left, and Strange has it.
I've always thought this costume looks like
Sealed in his
Batboy.
vault.
Well, in that
From Weekly
case,
World News.
I think we can strike a deal. I need a way into his vault, and I
See?
think you're just
Looks like
the girl
Bad Boy.
to help.
Bad
If you
Boy
get
with
me in
makeup
there,
and
I'll get
purple.
your plant. Deal?
But that's my rant
I should kill you.
or examination. That really wasn't a rant. Mixed up by many distractions. And
No kiss? I'm kind of disappointed.
I almost said, and I got to check out Catwoman's ass, but I didn't mean it that way. Oh, they've actually changed a lot of the body structure between costumes. Oh, I guess they're going, that's lewd. She looks like she's body painted. That's just silly. But you know what? It is an accurate, and this is an alternate costume, right? But it doesn't change the way she walks. Doesn't change the way she walks at all. So yeah, I'm getting distracted. So hopefully that you know, fills some people in on why isn't this working? Oh, because I have to go through the hatch, dummy. I hope that fills some people in on some of the background to this whole thing, and I guess I tried to give credit to all the people involved in this and all the opinions while still maintaining my own. And it's not that hard. It's not that hard. I just don't think people should get terribly upset over drawings, especially after, you know, making a death threat to anybody about a drawing after what happened in Paris is really poor taste. And maybe that's why they chose to pull it, because they didn't want to take any chances. But, and that's what sort of scares me, is I'm sort of at the point where, you know, the whole death threat thing is just noise. And then I have, you know, these moments of clarity like I'm having right now. Like, what if I'm wrong once? That's the reality of the discussion about comic books and video games that we're having. And I think that's what we really need to be addressing, not these various scandals. Fire! Fire! So the game is saying burn it all down. Thank you, game. I'll leave you with that. Where'd you go, Catwoman? Let's get one more look at Catwoman. Wow, they cut off her butt. That's painful.